Welcome to Parenthood Bites, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 10 of Parenthood Bites. We're here today with Adam Cando, who is a software engineering manager at Loyal and currently lives in Florida. Hi Adam, welcome.
Hey, Chow. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for speaking with us today. How is it over there on your side of the States?
It's very warm here in this time of year. Kind of jealous. A lot of coworkers very jealous of us in Florida. The highs are 86, 84, somewhere around there, and the evenings don't get too cold. So it's actually pretty great winters.
For the listeners, we're recording this in November, but we're going to release this Christmas. So usually around Christmas time, does it get colder?
It does. We'll have a couple weeks of it'll be in the 50s or 60s, which honestly, like for most parts of the country, it's not really that bad. The humidity never goes away though. It's always 80 to 90% humidity 100% of the time. So but yeah, we do get a couple. I always say we get 3 seasons. We get summer, we get 3 weeks of winter, and then we get summer again. There's really no in between. Yeah, we don't get too much extreme weather. It's not like Seattle where, oh my God, winters there must be crazy.
Yeah, I've never been to Seattle either. I have been to Florida, obviously, Disney World, but not Seattle. So I'll have to go sometime. So I'd like to start by just asking what brought you to tech and how many years have you been in tech?
So I started in tech really, well, professionally, it's been about 13 years. And I guess the thing that got me interested in it was my uncle, who he was in tech for a while. And as I was growing up, I was middle school, high school, early high school, started talking to him a little bit more and talking about programming and stuff. And that's kind of how I got my foot into it. And I was lucky enough, I went to a magnet high school that we have where it's basically your first 2 years are kind of like normal high school, except it's like a block schedule. So a little bit, you get more classes and stuff. And then your last 2 years, half your day is spent doing whatever your specialty is. So they had automotive, they had eye doctor, dentist, programming, graphic design. So I did the programming, thing, and it counts to a couple credits towards college, which is pretty cool too. So I did that, and that's kind of where I was like, all right, I'm all in here on the tech side, and yeah, that's kind of how it all took off.
That's really neat. And we talked to another guest who also went to a magnet school. That's really neat. And then do you feel it prepares you more for college too?
It definitely for me, there was, I want to say there was probably 3 or 4 classes that are more like intro classes to programming. You're just trying to get used to things, and I basically skipped those. And then even the first couple classes that I had, which I think it was programming 2 or 3 or something like that, even those I had a lot of the grounds already done to kind of help me get through that. I started learning the second half of that class basically. So yeah, it was such a big leg up. I felt, but also you just get the interest of it. It's really hooked. A lot of times in college, you're trying to figure out what do you want to do. Bunch of my friends and colleagues were the same way, and I had that kind of head start, which was really nice.
That's cool. So, sorry, I'm so fascinated by the magnet school. Is it like a private school you get sent to, or is it like another type of public school? How does one go there?
In this case, so this school was it's a magnet high school, but it's also a vocational school for adults, and they could do the same programs, but those programs they start obviously at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. after school's out. And so the way you get in, it is a public school, and it's by kind of they kind of grade people and they kind of choose certain students. So you can apply. I met with the guidance counselor of the school when I was like in my last year of middle school. They kind of ask you questions. What are you interested in? What do you kind of like and stuff? And like I said, obviously they look at you academically, and then you get accepted. And so the high school I was supposed to go to, I think they had I want to say there was like 1,800 students per grade. The magnet school that I went to had 600 for the whole school for 4 grades. So it's definitely difficult to get in, but at the same time, I feel like not a lot of people, at least at the time that I went to high school, not a lot of folks were thinking that way. So like a lot of my friends were like, "Oh, we're going to go to this school because of all the sports and stuff." This vocational school, they didn't have any sports. Like there's no extracurricular activities. So it's like you either make the decision to do that and you kind of forego a lot of stuff. So it's like it's hit or miss. You know, some years their applicants were drastically over the limit, and then other years it was pretty close. So maybe I got lucky and I just got in one of those years.
Wow, that's really neat. Thanks for sharing that with us. So you probably
Yeah,
got to be really close to your classmates and stuff with a smaller size.
that is one of the benefits. Yeah, because there's 150 kids in a grade, right? And so we shared a lot of the same classes. I met people that I still talk to today, just because like we got to see everybody basically in the whole grade, which is pretty cool.
It's very cool. So, you talked about going to magnet school, then going to school and still focusing on tech. So roughly how long were you in tech when you became a parent?
I guess not including the school years. Like my daughter, she's 4, so 4 years ago, and about 9 years when I became a parent. So I have one daughter. Her name is Kaylee. It's been pretty fantastic so far. So.
That's a really fun age, right? Where they're exploring everything and you're starting to see their personality really shine through.
Oh yeah, she definitely has a very strong personality. She'll tell you what she wants, which is very, some people like you see that and it's like, okay, I want like candy or chocolate or whatever, and I'm like, no, no, no. I mean like it's a half hour before her bedtime, and she'll sometimes just be like, "Daddy, I want to go to sleep. I'm tired." I was like, "Oh, early? Are you sure?" It's like, "Yeah." Like we have to negotiate. Like, "Are you really sure? Like you can stay up a little later." No, no, I want to go to sleep now. Okay, well, I'm not going to complain. Like, let's start the routine. So it's hilarious. It really is.
Oh, that's sweet. So, 4 years ago, I guess, is is pretty recent. I mean, since my kids are old now, or I feel like they're old. I feel like 4 years ago, then the parental leave was more recent than my kids. But what was it like when you needed to go on parental leave, and how was it received at work and everything?
Yeah. So the company I used to work for when I went on leave was called Ultimate Software, and they were fantastic. We got 4 weeks of parental leave, and so I put it in. Everybody at work, like I had a good rapport with people and like just peers and stuff. Like I'd been working there for a really long time, so everybody was super supportive. It was pretty funny because I actually tried to throw like two separate like celebration, baby shower type parties, and I missed both of them. So the first one I missed because my wife had like an early pregnancy complication that we ended up being okay about, but it was she needed a cerclage put in. So that was like a panic thing. But I had a meeting scheduled, didn't know what it was on my calendar, but of course I missed it. Right, it's like an emergency, so we had that. And then later on in the pregnancy, we had like she had to be put on bed rest, and that whole procedure and everything that happened there was the second time. So afterwards, we were just like, you know what, the hell with it, whatever, it's fine. We're just not going to do this. But I mean, work took it so well. I did get to take some of that time. Yeah, I took the 4 weeks off, and you just kind of completely disconnect. At least I did. You're just so focused on everything that's going on. You got this, little thing that you could like. You got to be super fragile with. So it just takes your mind completely off of work, which was fantastic. Yeah, very supportive. It was very very good time for us for sure.
That's awesome. I'm glad work was supportive because you hear stories, right, where it's like some people aren't really sure if you can go on leave and how long. And some people are like, oh, should I break it up? Should I? So I'm really glad you took the whole time because it's so important too for you, for your wife. And was your wife, it sounds like it was pretty tough kind of during the pregnancy of the bed rest and everything. So afterwards, you being home for 4 weeks probably gave her some time to really recover as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, because it was, and she did need, it was like an emergency C-section type situation. She needed some time to recover, and we did, like, we recovered just fine. And there was several weeks there towards the end where she was on bed rest, and again, like, my job was pretty flexible with me being able to like leave and come home different times, take her to different appointments and stuff. It's kind of like a flexibility that I feel like back then there was companies that did that, and I was very thankful to work for one that did. Today, I've heard a lot more of, just companies in general that are going that way to have those kind of flexibilities and those kind of benefits, which is great to see. Because yeah, it was very tough. And so I was deciding initially, like, hey, should I take the 2 weeks and then come back? We had this ability to kind of separate it out if it was taken all within like the first 6 months, I think. But I was just like, you know what, with all the stuff that's happening, like, let me just take the full thing. My boss at the time highly encouraged me to do that, and I was just like, you know what, the team's gonna be all right. Like, everybody's gonna be fine. Like, I'm gonna do it, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's great to have a supportive boss to encourage that, because a lot of times without that encouragement, we're like, feel a little bad. So that's really, really good. And so after taking the 4 weeks off, did you struggle transitioning back to work? How was that?
Honestly, it's hard to say. Like, the transition, getting back in was kind of like nice. It was great to see everyone. And as far as like transitioning right back into like the work thick of things, that was actually kind of quick and easy. Because if you think about it, like, the way that we had it, I had a bunch of different teams at the time. I think it was like four different teams, and we did have, the certain projects that we had in place. I had a couple of managers that were rolled up to me too. So I basically was just like, all right, like, I knew it was coming, right? I knew I was going to be on leave ahead of time. So, like, let me prep everybody. I knew what projects were going to be in flight and everything before I left, and where things should be about when I returned. And so it was just kind of catching up with them. That part, I think, was easy, or easier, I should say. The challenging part was, all right, I just introduced my daughter, like, we introduced my daughter into the world, and I'm starting to get used to that. And now I'm going to take X amount of time out of my day, 8 hours or more, to just not be there. Right. So there was a lot of, hey, I'm going, instead of just like eating lunch at work, I'm going home for lunch, and then I'm going to come back. And I did that pretty much every day for a couple of weeks because I couldn't stay away personally. I just didn't want to. Um, and yeah, this was like this was definitely just the first 6 months or so of it was before COVID, right? So this is like everybody's in the office. There wasn't a lot of working remotely, so like you kind of had to be there. So bouncing back and forth and stuff was a little tricky for me personally. That was the adjustment. Luckily, like, for my wife, she's a teacher, and for our school system, you could take parental leave, which is, I can't remember how many weeks of the paid leave you get, but you can take up to 2 years, and they will retain your position. So you get a small, like, I think it's like a full couple months actually, which is pretty cool. So you get a couple months of pay, but then you get 2 years total time off, and you might not be returning to the same school, or the same grade, but in the county you're still employed. They'll find a spot for you basically. So she did take the first 2 years off, which was, I mean, astronomically beneficial for my daughter. Number one, she's got somebody there all the time. Um, Me, peace of mind that I know, like, okay, like, my wife is going to be there for her, and just like the results of that, how well she's done academically. I mean, obviously having a teacher as a guide is kind of helpful there too, but she's been able to excel a ton because of all that time. So that kind of helped that transition back to work be a lot smoother, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then, like you said, it's like when you go back for lunch, it's you want to, it's not, oh my gosh, I have to, or something's because
Right.
she's in good care.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you mentioned you're managing 3 teams at that time. Is that right?
It was 4 teams.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was, so before this all happened, it used to be 4 teams that just directly rolled up to me, and it was insane because it's just like 34 or something direct reports. This is crazy. But I had the opportunity to like, and me and a couple of my peers, we kind of like sold this idea that like, hey, we need to put more leadership in place. It's just like way too many people for one person to handle, and like the three of us each had around there 35 people. So we had that the approval. It's like, okay, go hire some managers. We hired 2 great people. I wish I could work with them today because they're just so fantastic. So yeah, we had them, and so initially, I still had one team that directly rolled up to me, but just like for the interim of those 4 weeks, I was like, okay, like just in the meantime, here, can you help out or kind of thing. So yeah, they were so helpful in the transition, leaving and returning. It was a good little team that we had, basically.
I'm glad you were able to get at least a couple managers in place before going on leave as well. Then it's like they're in good hands, right?
Yeah, yeah. For being a like an engineer, any type of in leadership position, whether it be software engineering or anything, you kind of have to have a backup plan at all times. Like maybe it's not another manager, but maybe it's somebody on the team that's like, hey, it's your go-to person that could kind of take on some of these things. Um, and luckily, like I had a ton of support. Like everybody was super like, hey, you're volunteering to do things, and we were doing the same thing because we had. It's funny, it was like there's a whole bunch of people having babies around the same time, all within a month of each other, and there's like 6 people on the team. So when I returned or before I left, even I was like, hey, do you need anything? Do you need any help? You need any support? We kind of just all handed off, took turns with it. It was really cool time.
And it sounds like everybody's just very supportive, very understanding because you had just gone through it or someone else is about to go through it. So everyone can just kind of know how to support one another as well. I love that.
Yeah.
So if you recall, was there a mother's room at your work at that time?
There was. I don't exactly know where it was located. Early in the earlier years of Ultimate, we had it. I knew exactly where it was because actually I worked. I was an intern, right? That's why I started with this company, and they migrated 3 of us. We got shifted to a certain team, and we were basically like in this little, almost like a closet, but it was an office. It was just a very small office for one person, but the 3 of us worked there. And it was right next to the mother's room. So I know we have it. I think they ended up moving it to like our main facility. Um, and I didn't never went in there. But I heard like it was pretty well, like it had everything you need. They had like the little, like the special diaper, garbage thing. They had like wipes that were just provided, like a whole bunch of stuff. It was, because there was a couple mothers that were in the office with us, and they were like, "Yeah, the thing is decked out. It's super cool." Yeah,
That's awesome.
they were above and beyond. Our people officer, her name is Viv. She was just a fantastic person, and she was like super caring for all of those kinds of things. And she would personally make sure like everybody had everything they needed. So like benefits wise, it was phenomenal. And those are the kinds of things, like all these little attention to details type stuff that people thought of.
Yeah, that's really, really nice because those are the things that show you that, oh, the company cares about you more than just an employee, a cog on the wheel. They care about you as a person, right? They
Yeah,
care about your well being. That's really
yeah,
great to hear. I love when I hear those things, where they have supportive teams, supportive mother's room, all of that, because I remember I was at one place that had a nice mother's room, but I was at another place, I was just like, just go in that conference room that's like in the middle of the entire office and turn,
oh
pull the
my
blinds
gosh,
down and lock the door and you'll be fine. And then I would have people knocking and being like, I have a call. Can I come in there? And I'm like, no,
yeah,
I
absolutely
still
not.
need a few minutes. Like there's other conference rooms. And so, yeah, that's really nice to not have that burden, not have to worry about someone coming in to need a meeting or something. And I remember I was in there and I would like slack my coworker and be like, "Can you hear anything? Because I'm pretty sure it's not soundproof in here." Having that worry when
Yeah.
someone's in a meeting in the next room. So, you mentioned your daughter is 4, and So I was curious, what do you do about childcare during the day?
Yeah, so since my wife went back to work, we basically there's a daycare that's like right down the street. So we started sending her there when she was a little bit right around 2, just slightly older than 2. And she still goes there. Now it's pre-K. So this is going to be her last like year of pre-K, obviously. And it's been pretty great. So and we kind of do like shifts, right? So this is one of the ways like we kind of just make everything work, right? So my wife, she has to leave like pretty early to get to the elementary school. So I'm the one that does all the morning routine stuff with my daughter. So I get to drop her off. I got to see her there. And then if there's any like school activities, my job is pretty flexible with time. So I could take a half hour or whatever in the middle of the day, kind of go do those things at the school, and then I can come back and like start my work again. Um, so I'll do the morning stuff, and then my wife, she gets off like around 3 o'clock, so she can go pick her up. So that's kind of like our routine around like daycare stuff.
That resonates with me when you're like, we do what makes it work, and it's, it's different for everyone, and we get creative, right? At first we're like, I don't know, and then we get creative, we make it work. And whoever has schedules that can account for certain pickups or drop offs, then that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
Parents are so creative.
I mean, like our parents did it, their parents did it before them,
Yeah.
like and in way harsher, way more rigorous, clock in, clock out type scenarios. So like, if they were able to make it work, we could definitely make it work, right?
Yeah, like you said, they had much less flexibility than we do. And yeah, I don't remember my parents ever complaining about, I'm like, they never complained. They made it so easy. And then when it was my turn, I was like, dang, how do they? Um, so how has your work life changed since having kids? I know you mentioned a little bit about like, I go home for lunch or like, there's certain times I want to take off and stuff. But yeah, can you elaborate a little bit on those changes?
Yeah, like those first couple of years, it was more like that. When we started sending my daughter to the daycare and stuff, then work was it's basically like, oh, like I know she's somewhere, she's busy, like I'm not gonna see her anyway. So like I just work, right? It's just fine. I guess the one thing with the work life with having a kid that does change is like when something doesn't go well, right? When maybe my daughter's sick, or on a random day where maybe the school has to close, but teachers are still working because my wife obviously she then would still be working. Then those are days where we'd have to kind of like accommodate. So, if I could take PTO that day, I will. If I can't, sometimes like we live very close with my family, so either my mom or somebody might be able to say, hey, like you want a day to hang out with Kaylee and stuff, and like she could do that. But yeah, we just those are kind of like goes back to like what we were saying, like you just kind of have to figure it out and make it work. But I mean, mostly the last couple of years I've been working completely remotely, and now my daughter's at the point where even if she is sick, it's possible that I could work from home without anybody else helping me, because she kind of like she could be more self-sufficient. Obviously, they don't feel good, they're tired, so sometimes like she'll take a lot of naps and stuff, and I can kind of just work, and then okay, I gotta take a break, I gotta feed you, I gotta give you some medicine, I gotta sit here on the couch with you while I work and just be camera off. Again, it goes back to like that additional flexibility that some of these jobs give us, which we're very lucky in our industry to have.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of having to send your sick child to someone else, you're like, oh, I can actually be there and not have to take a day off, right? Because once you take a day off, then it's like, I don't know, when I take a day off and I'm sick or my kids are sick, I'm like, oh man, I got gypped. I'd rather take a day off to do something fun with the kid. And you're allowed to do that with the flexibility.
Yeah, and it's man, that's a good point, because I think most of the days that I've taken off is not because of a vacation or something. It's mostly because like, oh, okay, like got to make this work. I'm gonna take the day off, and it's fine. Hey, you make do.
So, what has been your biggest struggle or challenge with being a parent in tech?
That's a good one. Specifically, as a parent in tech, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not parenting. Like, obviously, we have our own little challenges here and there, but I don't know if there's anything specific to our industry that makes it more challenging than if we weren't in tech, right? I think a lot of the flexibility and a lot of the stuff I mentioned is kind of makes it easier. But I mean, I will say, like in the earlier years and stuff, like right when like my daughter wasn't, in daycare, if I didn't have my wife home, if for example, if I was a single parent or if she was had a job, same as me, then that just becomes really challenging, right? Like you either have to have somebody at home to watch her or, maybe you get a family member and stuff. That's where I think a lot of the challenges could happen. And, like in our industry, like sometimes, just like anything else, there's like really hard deadlines um, that you have to meet. You stay late, you work late, and you kind of miss out, right? So, and in those early years, we did have teams that were in just different parts of the world, which I guess is pretty common nowadays, right? So that was some things where sometimes I would have like meetings scheduled at really off times, like 9 or 10 p.m. or 3 o'clock in the morning type deals, where it's inconvenient for me personally, but luckily there wasn't too many of those that I had to do, and at the same time, in some of those odd hours, like my wife is home because she's not working, right? Even if she was working at the time, she's still home because it's such an odd hour. So yeah, I guess that would be it. Maybe like we get to in our industry sometimes it's a lot easier to say like because we're building software, it doesn't actually have to. It's not like a physical thing, right? So you got time different time zones for different teams, and you want to be available and fair to them. So that is one like bit of a sacrifice that you end up making.
Yeah, like you said, in some aspects there's more flexibility, but in some aspects, because there's more flexibility, you you need to put in some of those hours at odd times or do some other things because you can take it with you. So you're
Yep,
doing
yep.
it at those times. And so what about your biggest struggle or challenge with your daughter at her current age?
I think right now we're trying to make sure that we give her a lot of experiences. I think this we've something we've done all like throughout the whole her whole life basically. So we try to say like instead of getting her like actual things like stuffed animals or whatever, we try to say like, hey, for your birthday or for whatever holiday, we're gonna go to the zoo or we're gonna go to an amusement park or we're gonna do something new. Um, and so that's it's not too much of a challenge necessarily. I mean, obviously, it's like a challenge to like schedule it all and take the time and financially or for whatever reasons, that part's challenging. But I think now we're getting to the point where she's more expecting, not necessarily expecting, but she thinks that like, oh, we could just go somewhere all the time. Like, oh, it's a weekend. Let's go somewhere crazy, like somewhere we've never been. Like, let's go to Alaska or let's go wherever, whatever crazy things that she says. And so we definitely have to manage that expectation. But at the same time, like for me and for my wife, like we want to do that. And so it's just a matter of working around our schedules to try to make sure she gets this constant influx of like new experiences because it has helped her so much just being able to associate things that she learns with places she's been or animals that she's seen or that kind of stuff.
That's so fun because with toys, it's like, okay, they get the toy, they play with it for a few days, and then it just sits there taking up space. Whereas all these experiences, you can recollect them and you learn a lot and they build those amazing memories. What is the coolest experience you all went on or had?
One thing is cool for us and another thing it could be cool for her, right? So we we did end up going on a cruise a year or so ago, and it was a Disney cruise. Like she loves Disney, of course. So she absolutely loved that. And there was a couple times in the cruise where she got to do things that she had never really done before, right? Like there was like a little water slide thing. There was obviously we went to a different country. We've never done that before. That was our first time. They have like some of these really fun, like the beach day type thing where it's like a privately owned island that you go and she sat there and made sandcastles. She saw some marine life that she had never seen before. But I think one of the most impactful trips that we did like when she was very early on was take her to the zoo. It was during COVID and she was only a couple months old, but we did that a few times and just like her love for animals and stuff and being able to associate like all the different animals and where they are and you know she's been very curious about that. So like one of her hobbies is like, oh, when she gets home and I'm off work, like, hey, I want to go look for lizards in the backyard. Like, okay, yeah, fine. Let's go look for lizards. We'll catch them, put them in a little box, and she will pet them and hold them and stuff. So she just loves animals. So I think if I had to pick a trip that really like introduced that and opened up that world to her, that would probably be that one, or the first early zoo trips. But yeah, we want to take her to see snow because obviously here in Florida we don't get snow. We don't even get like the seasons, like the leaves don't change, nothing, none of that. They're either green or they're dead, and they're only dead for like a week, and then they're just grown back again because it's Florida sunshine. So I want to be able to take her to different parts of at least the country, and definitely a couple other parts around the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Having her experience, like you said, different seasons or like what winter is like in this part of the world versus that other part. That's really nice. And catching lizards. That sounds like a fun activity for you and her. Although I will admit, if my kids were like, let's go catch lizards, I'm be like, no, no, go with daddy. Or if daddy doesn't want to go, I'm sorry. Just Google it.
Yeah, reptiles, amphibians like frogs and stuff. Oh, she loves that. She's not grossed out by them, or not like, you know, you catch a frog, it's going to happen. They're going to just jump on you in the most unexpected way. And it's happened a few times, and she just starts roaring in laughter, and she stays perfectly still and stuff. It's great. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's so cute. So, what about work life balance? I know that's something, that we're working on and something that may change from day to day, year to year. But, what works for you for work life balance?
Yeah. So, like I said, we a lot of like I start my day pretty early, right? With I take her to school and stuff, and I come back. I usually try to get work immediately. I do have a pretty flexible job, right? It's fully remote, and we basically can. There's times in our day where we have to obviously be present and meet with everybody on the team, regardless of where they're located. So I'm there for those like core hours, I guess you could say, and then all the other time I will fill up as I need to with different meetings and different things that are going on. As you can imagine, like most of my day is going to be meetings, just coordinating things and talking with the right people. And so what I try to do is take advantage of some of the things that like our company has. Like we have a thing called No Meeting Thursday. We try our hardest to not have meetings, and usually for leadership that doesn't work out, right? We're going to have meetings on Thursday, but they're drastically less than any other day of the week. And so, and I definitely make sure like nobody on my team is going to have a meeting for that I put on the calendar on Thursday, right? So I do their service by them, but that means that my other like meetings that I want to have with the team, they block up the other days of the week. But I try to do that. I try to like block everything together so that if I do have my daughter has a school event or there's something I need to get done, I can kind of block everything together, maybe take off an hour early, get what I need to get done on the personal side, and that's kind of like the balance, right? I kind of make up the time where I see fit. So that's one way. Just having, and I wasn't always like that. I would always just like meet at any time and space things out. But I find that it's better to have like a stressful morning or a stressful afternoon, and then have some free time to either dedicate towards work if it has the availability, or dedicate towards like personal things, and set that time aside. Yeah, so I guess that's how I kind of handle it during the week with the work life balance. Sometimes you get interrupted on the weekends and stuff with something goes down in production, you got to deal with it, and
Hmm.
there's really nothing you could do there. Like you got to just kind of deal with it. But luckily, at least for this year, knock on wood, have been pretty lucky with those. Very few of those have happened.
That's good. And I think that's a neat tip for folks out there to hear about, like, just kind of having a certain block where you have all your meetings done and then you have the time to, if you needed to go to appointments or do other things or heads down work, whatever that is, you have that flexibility.
Yeah. And for me too, personally, like if I have like certain types of meetings that are more, hey, personal side, like one-on-one type stuff, that's I was going to say part of my brain, even though I know it doesn't work that way, but it's like part of my brain is that kind of mode of thinking. I kind of group those together. And then if it's more, like you said, heads down time that I need to actually like think through problems, that's like a separate, it takes me a while to get into and switch between those kind of mentalities. And so I try to group my calendar that way so that I spend less time switching back and forth between them and more time doing the things I need to do. And that helps my day. It condenses the day overall. basically.
Yeah, for sure. It always takes a while, right? You're jumping from meeting to meeting and then you got to go back to focusing on
Yeah.
something. It's like, wait, let me get my brain together. And no meeting days are always great. Like you said, we always do get one or two meetings, sometimes a little bit more, but at least you compare it to all the other days, it's going to be that much better.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you talked a lot about work and about the things you do with your daughter and things. What helps you relax or unwind after a long day, long week?
So if I'm not doing things with my daughter, you mean? Like just okay.
I mean, it can be with your daughter too. I'm just, some people say, reading with my kids is how I relax. Or for me personally, I'm like, I just gotta watch TV. Kids do their thing, But for some people, it is with the whole family, and not that I can't relax with the whole family. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I'm like, okay, this is me time. So what works for you in that sense.
Yeah, so we have a routine. I think it's one of the things that helps with, like, my daughter's been pretty good about, hey, I'm gonna go the evening time when she gets back from school. She has some time to like relax and play. She does her homework. We eat dinner. We have a little bit of basically like a family game time. So we either play a board game. Right now, my daughter's really addicted to Uno, and she's actually pretty good at it too, which is pretty awesome. So we'll play that for a while, and then she'll read a book. We'll do bath time, and then it's bedtime, right? So we stick to that routine, and so like that unwinding that happens with her when we're playing games and stuff. That's definitely one of my ways to de-stress. But we do, we lay her down like around 7 or 8 o'clock. Like, it's not, for me at least, like, I still got some hours left, right? I could still do other things, and that's one of the trade-offs, right? You trade sleep for whatever else you need, like, to kind of unwind. And so movie time, I'll watch a movie with my wife, or we'll watch like a TV show and stuff. We'll do that. If I'm not doing something like that, sometimes I'm pretty close with my dad, actually. So my family, they all live pretty close. So I'll go out with my dad, Friday night or whatever. We'll either have dinner, a late dinner, or we'll go to. I've started picking up golf, so I've started learning that. Very difficult for anybody who's ever done it, who's really good at it. I admire you 100%. It's really cool. It's a problem to solve. Like, how do you hit this ball that's completely stationary? Well, so that's a nice unwind. And then the last thing I do, which honestly I haven't done too much lately, is video games and stuff. There's one game and type of games, I guess, category that I play for like pretty consistently, which is it's called iRacing. It's a racing game, and I have a whole simulator and stuff that I built during COVID, PC and equipment. I'm pretty into that, pretty competitive with that. So it's actually more stress, but it also is stress relieving. It's a different kind of stress. So that works.
I hear you. It's a different thing to focus on. Or like you're learning to play golf. It's something, not just a skill set for you to learn, which can be frustrating sometimes because, like, oh my gosh, I can't get it into that hole or get it where I want it to go. But at the same time, it's also something fun for you. And
And it gets me out of the house too, because like when you're cooped up all day working from home in the same place, like I'll go out to lunch and I'm just to go out, right? And like little things like that help me de-stress, even though it's not like a fun activity. But yeah, I try to make sure I'm doing something like some kind of exercising, some kind of sports, or go out for a walk or ride bike or anything like that. Golf is pretty fun because we're trying to get better and never done it really before. So yeah.
I hear that. Just being able to go outside and see other people, see the birds, see the sky. So, what's something that you would tell someone in tech who's planning to have kids, or something that you wish you knew before you had kids?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I enjoyed before, I still enjoy now. Like, I could say, because sometimes people will either say like, oh, I changed so much when I had kids, like my hobbies are completely different, and that could totally happen. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like they don't really need to. Like you can incorporate your interests into their upbringing, kind of, so to speak. And I think we all parents do this. Um, and so I guess from the tech side, I've actually we've actually tried to keep her away from certain tech for a while. Like, She's not like sitting on a tablet very often or like a phone, or we try to keep screens away. And so that's one thing that being in tech, knowing all the technology stuff and being glued to your phone and whatever, I kind of learned like very early on, is like I did not want to do that with her. Not like obviously like it's inevitable, like every kid's gonna have a phone at some point or whatever, but I was like, let me put that off as much as possible and try to focus on getting outside and getting those other experiences that, like she's in school and she's reading a book, and we hear from the teacher when teacher conference day and whatever. It's like, oh, like she's seen all these animals that we talk about, and she's actually been to Disney World before, and she knows these places, right? We have like a local, it's called Flamingo Gardens. It's just like a little gardeny area where they have a bunch of flamingos, right? And like, so she was able to associate real world experiences with the things that she's reading in stories and books and stuff. And we've been told now by two teachers that she's had that like other kids just don't have this anymore. It's like, oh, I've seen this show, but they're not able to associate it with things that they're learning. And so that was just like a huge like step up for her. So yeah, that would probably be one thing that kind of like learned really quick, like, oh, you know what, let's make sure she doesn't get into phones and stuff, and let's focus on other things. And that's definitely been something that I think has help her a lot.
That's awesome. It feels really good as a parent when you hear that, oh, all these experiences we're taking her to is really, she loves it. She's learning a lot from it, and people are seeing that, and that makes you want to do it more, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to say it's easy, because like the first, obviously she has sat on a tablet before and stuff. I think there's even part of the instructions in school that it's on a tablet, and you get into that saying like, oh, I just want to do this game on this tablet. It's like, well, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to put that down. So to get through that barrier was tough at first. So yeah, it definitely doesn't come without its challenges, but yeah, if you could do it, I think it's definitely worth it.
That's awesome. I'm taking notes, I'm like, take some of that tablet time away from my kids. I mean, we have it limited where it's like they can do it for a certain time of the day but I want to get more creative with that. So that's really neat.
It's necessary at some point, right? Like part of their curriculum, and then they want to be able to explore it and have fun. There is things like there's like these coding schools that you can. There's a couple like local to me, and I'm sure they're in other parts of the country too. And I can't even remember the name of it. I think Code Monkeys is one of them, but not a sponsor. Not sponsoring it. I just saw it one day and it was a cool name, so I was like, okay, that must be cool. I just want to throw that out there. But it's great because they get the kids into this stuff super early, right? So it's just learning basic simple logic, and can you like pre-program a little robot or something on the screen to kind of do this behavior ahead of time? Because honestly, like a tech, it's everywhere, right? Like it's bled into every single industry that's out there. So the earlier they can kind of learn this stuff, the better. So it's not like we're saying like, no, absolutely never have a tablet. There's like this fine line and the older they get, the more necessity they have for it. So yeah, well, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I'm lucky. She's only 4. I could get away with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and you just adjust kind of as you go and things, but it's good to just keep that in the back of your mind, to be intentional about that. But yeah, thank you so much, Adam, for talking to us today. And I know I learned a lot, and I think the listeners did as well. And so, yeah, really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. No, have a good evening, actually. I think it's nighttime already. So.
It is. Yes. Thank you. And happy holidays to everyone who's listening.
Happy holidays to you as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bites. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbites.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, @parenthoodbites.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbites.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.